I'd like to call this Whitfield County Board of Commissioners meeting to order for the 11th day of July, 2022. If you will please silent or mute your cell phones and take your seats, we are ready to begin. I'd like to ask all that are able to please stand for our invocation followed by the pledge. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, you are the Alpha and the Omega, the Creator of heaven and earth. We thank you for this great country that we are free to assemble in. We thank you for this time together and ask blessings on our meeting tonight. Help us make the right decisions and have open minds and hearts. Please keep us all safe tonight and on our journeys back home. We pray for the continued recovery from this pandemic and also for the people of Ukraine. May the conflict soon end. Forgive us for our sins. In His name we pray. Amen. Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May the record reflect we have 4 commissioners present. Commissioner Robbins is on an airplane over the Atlantic on a trip to see his son's wedding, so we congratulate him on that. Please note that because there's an even number, I am not allowed to vote under almost all circumstances tonight. I cannot make a motion or vote. That keeps it an odd number and make sure everything passes. The commissioners were made public about 6 days ago that there was an agenda posted and sent out online. We have one addendum to review and approve the audit findings from our auditors. If there's any other additions to the agenda? If not, I'll accept a motion to amend the agenda to add the approval of the audit and as it was written previously. Motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Staten. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 3-0 vote. There is one consent agenda item, and actually that will be a little bit important when we discuss our audit here in a second, but those are the standard budget amendments that we do each month from the previous meeting in June in this case. All right, the minutes from our last meeting were also sent out about 6 days ago. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes? Was there any corrections to the minutes that you saw? Wonka? All good? Is there a motion to accept the minutes from last month, June? Motion by Commissioner Thomas. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 3-0 vote. You need to start the slideshow. All right, we have our Employee of the Month presentation. Carter Chance come forward with the supervisor from the fire department. Chief, tell us a little bit about him. Thank you.
Actually, I'm just going to introduce him. Lieutenant Carter Chance, 5.5 years full-time service with the county, 1 year volunteer prior to that. He was nominated by his battalion chief, Chris West, who's going to take over for us.
Thank you.
I'd like to say it's a pleasure working with Carter. He does such a good job. David, he works at one of our busiest stations in the county. He's a very young lieutenant. He's worked very hard over the past 5 years to move up the ranks to a company officer level. And during that time, he's attained his degree and just done a real good job. He's that employee that everybody wants and is sought after. But he does a great job with us. He's that kind of employee that never asks why when you give him a task. He just does it. So
Please congratulate Mr. Carter. How are you? Thank you. We have one public hearing tonight on an alcohol and beverage application from Deep Springs Vineyard. It's Michael Roberts over on Beaverdale Road. So that's our new vineyard wine. I don't know if he's here tonight. We're always happy to hear from the applicant. Anything you'd like to say about it? Of course, we can't wait for it to get open and the tourism to begin. Is there anyone who would, I do declare the public hearing open on this application. Is anyone want to speak in favor? Would anyone like to speak opposed? We're not voting on it right now. We will vote in a few minutes, but if there's any comments, we're happy to hear them. All right, I'll declare the public hearing closed. And this is the part where we give our reports from each commissioner. I always start with our strategic objectives, and I always like to have citizens' input. So our very first one is to improve these meetings, to make them more visible. We've been working on Facebook, working with our microphones, making these presentations easier to read and better to understand, giving more notice. We're only required 1 day notice. We try and do 6 to 7 days notice. But I got a great suggestion earlier tonight from a citizen to come up with an email distribution list so it's easy. Somebody can just go on the website, click on, put their email address, and sign up, as opposed to us having to manually add you to our distribution list. So we're definitely going to look into that. We also want to modernize our government and increase our engagement with our employees. We've done all our employee goal settings. All the employees have reviews now, and that hasn't always been the case in the past. We're trying to find better paying jobs, not just more jobs, but actually better paying jobs to improve our income levels. We want to reduce property taxes and improve our city-county teamwork. I know a lot of people got their property assessments. I never get tired of reminding them that the commissioners do not set the assessments, so I'll say it one more time. If you want to give us your feedback tonight, there's nothing we're voting on because we don't vote on assessments. That's done by the Board of Assessments and the Chief Assessor. But I just want to remind you that that is set by them. We will look to roll those back. I don't want to speak for the commissioners, but that's our plan. In August, once we have the final digest after the appeals, and I put the link up there. If you feel yours was way above the average and there's no justification for it, you can appeal online. So you don't even have to go down there and wait and stand in line for it. You can do a direct appeals. If you'll give us 30 days, we're also working on a longer-term solution. So we're not just right back in this every few years, maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 2 years. Whenever there's a countywide assessment, there always seems to be a problem with that. So we want to help our seniors and our young family and not have to worry about, did my neighbor's property sell at a higher price? Now I got to pay more taxes for that. So I think we can come up with a solution. We're working with the state legislature, and we'll have to ultimately come to you and get your support on a ballot initiative for that. This is a reminder, we have our park opening up. That's a 1,000-acre Rocky Face Park on the 25th, so that's coming up in just a couple of weeks. And it's right off of Crow Valley Road. If you haven't been out there, it is already open. We've had lots of bikes and hikers and visitors to it already. But we'll have all the people that help really make this park a reality. You know, we couldn't afford to buy 1,000 acres. We wouldn't want to put that property tax burden on you. So these were donations, these were grants, and we want to recognize all the people that really made this Rocky Face Ridge Park happen. And of course, we did put money and effort into it to make the trails and to make it easy to use for all the citizens. But I think it'll be a great event on the 25th. Our courthouse, we've got one more certificate to get on our elevator, which should be August 1st. And then we'll have an announcement coming later in August where we can open it up to the public. We have artwork that was donated on loan, not donated, but it's on loan, that'll be in the courthouse. You can see all of the changes, the remodels that we've done, the air conditioning system, all the new bathrooms, really extended the life of our courthouse. You hear a lot about tearing buildings down, you know, because it's 20 years old. Well, this is a 50-year-old courthouse, and we think we added 20 years of life to it with this simple, although it wasn't too simple, 18 months of work to get it done, but not as complicated and certainly not as expensive as tearing it down. So it's going to be a great dedication, and hopefully we can do that in August. All right. Commissioner Jones, do you have any comments or updates for us? Commissioner Thomas? Commissioner Staten? No reports. All right, our county administrator.
Well, good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be here. I have a few items there to report on. The first one is the local nonprofit grant committee. As the board knows, but perhaps members of the public don't know, several months ago, the board created a committee that would review grant applications from local nonprofits to use a portion of the ARPA funds that the county was awarded by the federal government. Just to let you know where things are there, the committee had its first meeting on June 15th. Judge Cindy Morris is the chair, and Sheriff Scott Chitwood is the vice chair. The committee decided to break funding requests into three categories. The first is reimbursement for COVID-related expenses. Those would be things, expenses that nonprofits incurred for things like personal protective equipment, hand sanitizer, things of that sort. The second category is lost revenue in 20 or 21 during the pandemic due to COVID. As you know, during that period of time, there really were not a lot of in-person meetings, particularly fundraisers, so we will accept applications for that. And the third category is programming that meets ARPA requirements. Essentially, that'll be programming as far as educational programming, perhaps on best hygiene practices and things of that sort. Committee will meet again later this month. At that meeting, the application and guidelines for application will be finalized, and we will determine a timeline for application for the committee to review and then submit recommendations to the board for final approval. Second category is the CHIP grant program. As you know, the county was awarded a $400,000 federal grant for CHIP. I'm proud to say that I believe that Whitfield County is only one of 10 local governments in the state of Georgia to receive that grant. What we will be doing is we will have an RFQ in order to create a list of qualified and approved contractors to do the work on these homes. Then we will solicit homeowner applications. For those who may not know, the CHIP program is again a federal program that rehabilitates owner-occupied homes, particularly for folks who are elderly who may not have the income or assets to do that themselves. The eligibility, broadly speaking, is for single-unit homes. They have to be owner-occupied. The owner has to have fire insurance and has paid all the property taxes. Preference will be given to persons 62 years of age or older, and preference will be given to household income of less than 50% of the average household income in Whitfield County, and even greater preference will be given to those households that have household income of 30% or less than the average household income in Whitfield County. And just to give you an idea where we're at on that, for the average three-person household in this county, annual household income is about $68,000. So you can do the math from there. The next category is the Georgia Department of Driver Services building. There's going to be a ribbon cutting. Monday, July 25th will be a busy day because in the afternoon will be a Rocky Face Ridge, but in the morning at 10 a.m. we will be out there for the ribbon cutting. I've heard rumors that Governor Kemp will be there, but that's depending upon his schedule. We hope he is able to come and we'll be able to go see him as well. The county's been involved in this project to some extent. Recently, our Public Works Department cleaned up a lot across from Wagner Road to make that brand new building. I took a tour with the county engineer inside several months ago, so it's an impressive facility. But we cleaned up the property across the street so that it wouldn't look bad for the grand opening and moving forward. The county is also offering technical assistance to the Department of Driver Services as they undertake paving of their CDL, commercial driver license testing lot. So we're working on that as well. The last thing, and I always try to take advantage of the assets I have at hand, and I noticed that the director of the Trade Center, Margaret Thigpen, is here. So I'm going to defer to her because she's more involved with the Georgia Mountain Moonshine Cruise, and this is a big, big event that not only the Trade Center but the county is involved in. So I'm going to pass the microphone.
It's coming soon.
It is. So July the 27th through the 30th, the Georgia Mountain Moonshine Cruise In will be in our community. They have rented the entire convention center. You will be parking at Dalton State. It will run from 8 to 5 each day. There'll be a car auction as part of it on Friday and Saturday. And then after 5 o'clock, they'll be out in our community. There's a downtown parade Friday night of the cars. Then, of course, they'll end up at our concert series, Off the Rails. And then Saturday, they will wrap up the event. But we are really excited. This is a great community effort between county, city, convention center, the CBB, all of the elements that really make a group that comes into our community feel warm and welcome, but also give back to our community. So we're super excited and thank the county for helping us with this event. You can find out more information on it at GAMMoonshinecruisein.com. Thank you.
Great.
That's all I have unless there are questions.
Any other questions for our administrator? All right, thank you. All right, time for our finance report from our Director of Finance, James Garvin.
Okay, so these numbers are year-to-date through May. Local option sales tax is 12% higher than through May of last year, the same time frame. TABT, basically flat, rounding 0.5% less than through May of last year. Year-to-date revenue for this year is 4.25% higher than through the same time frame of last year. Our expenses are 3% higher than through the same time frame. That we still has us, though, a little bit to the positive through May as far as projected ending fund balance. So total revenues this year, graphically, they're 16.9. The 21 actual, 13.3. We had talked about this last month. Of that 3.5 roughly million, 3 million is the ARP revenue loss funding transfer. It makes up that difference of revenue being higher this year. Expenditures, again, a little bit above projected, but through May, through that point of the year, there is no department exceeding its total budget. As we've discussed, you have a percentage allocation monthly, and you get up through May, and some of these departments may have some expenditures that are trending due to inflationary pressure higher than a straight 1/12 allocation up through May. But we have no department in danger of exceeding its annual approved budget by the board. And then here we see that little bit of surplus that I mentioned just 2 minutes ago, showing here the revenue slightly higher than the expenditures being over budget, still adding just a little bit to a projected ending fund balance. So our actual fund balance as of May 31st, 25.7 million. I think it was 27 and some change at the end of April. As we've discussed, that fund balance will reduce in actuality every month until we hit November and December, and property tax revenues begin replenishing our cash balance for operations.
Yeah, I think I need to fix this graph. There's only $60,000 difference, so it looks like it's a big delta, but it's just because of the legend on the left. It's basically
yes,
flat. It's basically flat.
Yes.
Hasn't changed much at all.
So SPLOST bonded projects, we issued the bond so we could make a lot of progress up front on the courthouse renovation and Riverbend Parks construction. We have expended those bond proceeds. We're now moving into the PAYGO funding for the rest of our projects as we move through the 4-year period.
And remind me when this bond will be paid off. I know we've made 2 payments a year, I think, but what's the actual term of it?
It's 4-year. There's one large $6+ million principal payment in October of each year. So this October will be the second of those large principal payments, and there are 2 interest payments.
Okay, halfway through.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is actual SPLOST revenues. We're almost halfway through the SPLOST period, about 42% into it, and we have almost $36 million collected. Project expenditures include those payments for Dalton City's share and Tunnel Hill, Cohutta, and Varnell that were funded up front so they could move forward with their projects, and a little bit of the county easing into pay-go projects. And then the bond debt service there is shown separately, and that's how much we have funded or set aside to date toward the bond payments.
Anything else for the commissioners? Any questions for our finance director? Is there a motion to approve the finance report for, I think that should say June, right? No, that was May.
No, that was May.
That was May, so that's right, May 2022. Motion by Commissioner Jones, is there a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Staton. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay? Passes on a 3-0 vote. Thank you. All right, this is our time for public comment. I know that we have at least 5 people that want to speak on the zoning. I've talked to a few of you. We just ask that, because we're not supposed to have another public hearing, so it's not a public hearing. If you recall, you had to sign a special waiver. If you went to the previous meeting last month at the zoning board, we have to post signs, do mailings. It's a whole state regulation that we have to do to have a public hearing. So this kind of needs to be just new information or just information from the community that, that wants it or doesn't want it, whatever the feelings are. So try and keep new information, and all that I ask is just be respectful, and I'll make sure everybody's respectful for you. So no threatening of health or safety or livelihood, and you'll be good. If not, you'll have to take your seat or leave the building, but I'm sure that won't happen. Ms. Alt, did you want to speak, or you have 5 other people you'd like to speak?
I just have one thing to say. We've emailed back and forth. I'm pretty sure you know where I stand and the community stands, so I would like to yield my time to the second speaker, Matt Coker. Thank you.
Definitely.
I have a copy of everything that I'm going to say here, and I don't know if I'll be able to get through it all, but I've got copies for anybody that wants it. So I'm just going to kind of be reading from this, and I'm going to try to move through it as quickly as possible. I know nobody wants to be here any longer than we have to. Pull the mic.
Yeah, just look down. You're kind of tall. Yeah. Yeah, we do need the name and address of each speaker. There's no forms to fill out, but we just want your name and address just for the record.
Matt Coker, 4485 Cahutta Varnell Road.
Go ahead.
There are large developments going in all around the North Georgia area. These developments are mostly comprised of housing priced in the $300,000 and up range. According to Zillow, the average cost of a home in Georgia is around $250,000. This begs the question, who are these homes being built for, if not the residents of Georgia? The board would have the residents believe that the Camden development is for all the young folks who are looking to become first-time home buyers. But if this were true, the starting cost of homes would not be $300,000 plus. These developments are not being developed for locals, but rather the influx of people fleeing blue cities who have sold overpriced properties and are able to purchase rural properties at an inflated rate. To support this claim, consider this. Californians are fleeing the state at unprecedented levels. More than 360,000 residents left the state during 2020 and 2021. The data shows that fewer people are choosing to move to the state as well. Researchers noted that 25% to 45% decrease in migration in all areas of the state. Another source for consideration is an article published by Forbes that names 10 states people are fleeing and 10 states that they are moving to. The top states people are fleeing are California, New York, and Illinois. The top states they are moving to are Texas, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Nevada, Maine, Delaware, and Idaho. The data supports the community viewpoint that they are not building the Strain Road development for the influx of people from New York, The data supports the community viewpoint that they are building the Strain Road development for the influx of people from New York, California, Illinois, and other blue areas. This board would also have the citizens believe that if they do not approve the rezoning that the developer can build anyways. That is true, but they cannot build what they want without rezoning the property. Currently, the property is zoned R2, and they want to change it to R6. What's the difference? To keep it simple, it's about the amount of land on a lot that can be built upon. For example, under R2, developers can cover approximately 33% of the land, 33% of the lot with a structure. Under R6, developers can cover approximately 60% of a lot. So under R6, they can build the exact type of high-density housing that we do not want. This means if the rezoning is not approved, the high-density portions of the proposed project cannot be built. This would limit the amount of houses that could be built under R2 zoning, which would be preferable to the R6 alternative. So again, we, the citizens of Whitfield County, ask you to reject the Camden rezoning request. Big developments come with big infrastructure problems that require costly solutions. Typically, the burden of these costs fall on the taxpayer or the developer. This prohibitive cost is what has traditionally kept large housing and large urban developments limited to similarly developed areas. The federal government set money to the side through the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, or just ARP. Whitfield County alone received $20 million through this program. The commissioners have approved the use of ARPA money to build the sewer that the developers will need to support all of the new housing. So the money isn't going to the developers directly, but it's being used to fix a problem that the developers are creating, one for which I believe they should be solely responsible. There was a TAD proposed for a large development in the north end of Whitfield County. It had to go before the Board of Commissioners because this TAD was essentially using Whitfield County tax dollars to finance part of this development. In the meeting, one of the commissioners asked the developer why financing for the project had not been obtained through more traditional corporate channels. The developer's response was that they had tried to obtain funding from over 50 financial institutions who all rejected involvement in the project. So where is the funding for the Camden development coming from? Who will benefit from forcing a development on residents who have cried out in opposition? The simple fact is that the Camden development is not being built for residents of Whitfield County or even the residents of Georgia. It's being built to accommodate an influx of people fleeing blue areas for various reasons. It's also being built to enrich a greedy few who want nothing more than to sell out the citizens of North Whitfield County to further enrich themselves. What's worse is that they are using our federal tax dollars to subsidize the peripheral development required to accommodate the large housing developments. The current citizens gain nothing except for higher taxes. The developers relieve themselves of financial responsibility for the problems that their progress will create. And on top of all of this, our land taxes just went up. The people are upset and they have spoken. They do not want this development. They do not want higher taxes. And failing to carry out the will of the people would be failure to serve the best interest of your constituencies. According to Georgia regulation, this meets the minimum criteria required for the recall of public officials in the state of Georgia. As with any decision that impacts many people, careful consideration should be given to both the long-term and short-term impacts of forcing a large development on a group of unwilling residents. I'd be happy to provide you with a copy or email it to you.
Blanca's right over there. See her? Give it to Blanca. You see, she's raising her hand. Would you give it to Blanca, please?
Give her a copy.
Yep, she'll get it to us. And you were right on time. Thank you.
I am Carol Matthews on Marlar Drive, Cohutta.
You might have to adjust the mic just down. He's a little tall. Thank you.
Okay. We've only been here for 3 years. We moved here in 2019, and we chose the north end of Whitfield County because of the rural setting. Was in Catoosa County. I grew up in Fort Oglethorpe, my husband in Lakeview. When in Fort Oglethorpe, my father bought one of the first 45 houses that was ever put in Fort Oglethorpe. After we married, we stayed there for several years, but it got very crowded, as everybody knows, as it grew. So we moved out into the county area, where we might see 10 cars a day, if that much, on our road. So when I left the school system that I was working, time you drove home, it was very calm and calm, so we enjoyed that very much. When we moved in 2019, I would have to stand by my driveway and wait for 20 cars to go by before I could get my mail on the other side of the road. That's how much the area grew up out that way. From the Walker County growing, which we were close to the line, and from Lafayette, all coming down Long Hollow Road to the I-75 thing. It became a major corridor. So we lost a lot of our rural setting. Also, when a one-street subdivision went in, they originally wanted 45 houses. The water department said they could not supply that much, so it went down to 20. Went through there. As soon as they cut that road and started the houses, 3 of us that had adjoining properties lost our wells. Then we had to hook onto the county, because what happened was when you cut through the hillside or where you was, you changed the trajectory of your water. and therefore we no longer had healthy wells, and we had to go on an expense to us. We are on well water where we are now, and our driveway is over 500 feet. So if I have to if I lose my well and I have to go to the county water, I'm looking at quite an expense to come at $30 to $50 a foot for me to hook onto the water system. So therefore, if you lose all of our resources in that area, our natural forest, the trees, the land, and so forth that now collects all the water, we're going to be in trouble. So since we had that in our background, I decided to do some research. So I went online and I went to look for the Georgia Plan of Water System, and there's a whole full name for it. I have got to remember what the name is on there. But anyway, it's the planning for the Georgia water system. And there's an area, it's the Coosa Natural Area, which Whitfield County and 17 other counties fall in. So they have a projection there. There's several charts and everything throughout this very long documentation. I'm sure you all are aware of it in there. And it shows that it goes from like 2015 up to 2050. And they show the population by natural growth and what's going to happen to the water resources at that point in time. Well, it shows then by the 2050, based on that current current population, which we will excel if we have these PUD properties, we would have gaps in our ability to assume the waste that will be in our streams and creeks as opposed to having our drinking water. Therefore, look at the chart, and they're showing that right now Whitfield County has about 102,000 people in population. We have 354 people per square mile. If you add the influx of the two PUDs or projects you already have, the Patterson Farm and the Kahula River villages, and you add this one, you're adding somewhere between 13, 15, 16,000 people if they go to if there's 3 people or more to each one of the units as they're stating to be. When you put that many more people on the water system, then you're going to tax it a lot more. You're increasing your population. So the gaps that they're talking about that's going to happen in 2050 now look like they're going to happen in 2038 or 90 or maybe 40, which is just a few years away from here. It's not that far away for us to have trouble. It also says that we're not allowed to raise the temperature of our springs, of our streams and rivers. Well, you've got Wilson's Creek and you've got Pittman's Branch up there, which I understand somewhere along there they allow trout fishing and there's some fishing and so forth. And you're not supposed to go more than 2 degrees in your water temperature for that. It's against the rules for that. So if you cut all the trees away and you let the land get very much more heated, then those branches, that creek, they're going to heat up a little bit more. And they're going to go to that 2 degrees, or they're going to dry up, one or the other. So you've got trouble with those 2 creeks. They also go on into the Conasauga, and you're not supposed to touch the Conasauga in any way whatsoever. That and the Jacks River, the 2 ones they listed not to do anything to. So therefore, you've got all the forest is gone, and you've got this heated area, and then on top of that, you've got thousands more people with flushing through the sewage or whatever it is that has to go into the river. So eventually, you're moving everything up on the calendar as to whether we can have good water. In 2005, we had a drought. And Whitfield County, Catoosa, Walker, and some other counties, we ended up having water rationing, plus we had to buy water from other counties and or Chattanooga in order to get the water. That was in 2005. So if we bring in all this influx of people suddenly in these small little compound areas, what happens the next time we have a bad drought or what runs into our water? So that was my concern, having what happened to us in the past. If we change the water trajectory, then you lose the natural springs and the ponds that feed the areas around where this proposed price is going to be. And then
We're a little bit over time, so if you just wrap up your final thought
Okay.
there, over 5 minutes.
Okay, the last part is that the statement was made that the North End County was underutilized. Well, it isn't underutilized because it provides the resources that the rest of the county needs as far as the water, clean air, and water that comes from there. The rest of you benefit from that. So if this gets polluted and messed up, it goes to the entire county. So that's as much out of place up there in that area as if you facetiously, I'll say, put you a stockyard on Walnut Avenue. So,
Thank you.
that's all I have to say.
My name is Mary Smith, 4607 Cleveland Highway, Cohutta, directly across from the development.
Yes.
I have a couple of comments first and then some questions for the commissioners. We've talked about schools, we've talked about postal service in the past at our last hearing. And I think one of our major concerns, in addition to water and all that, is the resources that we have in the north end of the county. And having lived in Cohutta for 42 years, I've watched it grow, but not that much. I have grandchildren at Cohutta School and North Whitfield Middle School. Cohutta, and I used to keep the population or the enrollments for Dalton School, so I'm very familiar with that. Cohutta School is down very little, just a little bit. So a concern there is where would all these children go to school? And I know we talk about redistricting, but the elementary schools in the north end of the county are already at capacity. Cahulla Creek and North Whitfield they could still stand a few more, but not nearly as many. The elementary schools will be suffering from that, as will school taxes, because those will have to continue to have additions and other services, teachers that have been hard to get lately. The Postal Service is a concern. Cohutta Post Office serves the Varnell area as well as Cohutta, and with this many new people, that will be a concern as well. And the traffic, that's the big thing. There are no traffic lights in between Cleveland and Highway 2 in Varnell, none. I just drove it recently and thought how nice a drive this is. So there's no way to have this kind of development without traffic lights, without congestion, without all of the things that we moved to Cohutta to escape. And traffic lights are one of them. I was concerned about the last time that we were talking about jobs. I think the developers talked about bringing jobs to the community and bringing fast food. Wendy's, we were so excited when Wendy's came, but Wendy's can't keep employees. They can't keep it staffed. McDonald's can't keep it staffed. So if we bring in other fast food restaurants, where are the employees coming from? We'll just get the poor service that we've had in the other north end of the county. So we do wonder where the jobs are. They going to be jobs for our community, or are they going to be coming in from somewhere else? And our goal is to improve our community, to have it much better. I think that there have been concerns from this committee that some of the commissioners might be benefiting financially from this, and I certainly hope that isn't true. But I think we have to look at that. Are there any commissioners or people who are in government who will benefit financially from this development? And also, the change in, why would the county put that much money into property that's zoned R2 when it was, when the site plan was good for only PUD funding or zoning? We were told that property taxes wouldn't increase. And of course, you can see this whole room full of people that have had taxes increase just recently. I think my sister's went up 65%. They'll be making an appeal.
Yep,
so if we have all of that, what is it going to do to our taxes? And I was told when this came about, well, Mary, your property values are going to go up. Well, I don't want them to go up. The only way that will help us is if we sell our property.
Right.
So if we don't want to sell and we want to stay there 42 years like I have, then it will not benefit us at all except raise our taxes to take care of all of these services that we've been benefited from. So I guess one of the questions the committee had, and this is directly to the commissioners, is if you all are not representing us as a community, then why would the people in the community continue to support voting for you? That's not my question, that's coming from the committee.
Yep.
And so we want to have this friendly relationship that we've had in the past, but we want you to support the needs of our community, not people coming from Chattanooga.
Okay, thank you.
Probably need to raise this up. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, perfect.
All right. My name is Daniel Auld. I'm at 1060 Cottaville Road. So like others here that have spoken probably way more eloquently than I have, a lot of us attended the zoning meeting, and there were some concerns for me especially that came out of that meeting. The zoning report that was read, it seemed to be there was a lot of hand waving away of major issues, things like that this is the largest development ever in the history of Whitfield County, this PUD specifically. And it seemed as if a lot of the issues that this might bring about to our community, such as the light pollution, the traffic, just the change in culture of the area, were really hand waved away by, well, there'll be a buffer or there'll be green space. But that doesn't do really anything but hide the problem and mask the problem. Because while, yes, it would be a great loss of, rural scenery, looking at the fields, and the forest there, but a lot of the core issues that I think people have brought up tonight are not about how it looks necessarily, but the impacts that it's going to have to all of us in general. I think the taxes were brought up, the traffic was brought up. I know light pollution was mentioned several times in the zoning report, and I'm not a scientist, but I don't think trees necessarily stop it from going up. I mean, coming from out in the country, Cahola Creek Elementary, even the food line had a vast impact on just the general light pollution, the observability of the night sky, and I think this is probably going to be worse with that many houses, 1,200 houses or so. So I just had some concerns about that, and I really don't want to walk through the whole zoning report because it's very long.
We can't do that. Yeah, we did cover that.
And I don't have time to do that.
you.
But I really don't want us to make a decision here because we feel like we're presented with two bad decisions, right? I think we talked about the actual land itself. It's zoned as R2. It was being used mostly as agriculture, but it is R2. And so development can happen either way. But I think the way this was being sold to us is that, well, with the R2 we have no control over the building that goes on, and with the PUD we do have control over what goes in. But that's only to a certain extent, because I think I can speak for. I know I was shocked when it appeared as if some of the commissioners were surprised at the amount of green space had changed. And really, no matter what requirements we levy onto the developer, so long as they meet the minimum guidelines, we really can't necessarily change exactly what they want to do. I would cite in the meeting, there was a proposal made for the change in of the commercial area, of the height of signage being lower and facelit as opposed to backlit. And, they seem pretty opposed to that idea. And what I really don't want to happen is us to be presented with two bad decisions, feel like we're making the better decision, going with the PUD maybe, and then down the road having the site plan change on us. And there's no hearing for that. It's just submitted to you to the board as far as I understand. And if you approve it, then that's what goes forward. And, there's no way for us to check that. Now, I could be wrong. That's and maybe I am. But so you can fact check me on that.
If he changes his site plan, we have to have another public hearing on that, right? It's like another rezoning. Yeah, it'll be just like it is.
So it would have to be rezoned?
Yeah, public notice, 30-day notice, and all that stuff, and he has to present it.
Not rezoned, but the site plan has to be submitted and approved.
Okay.
In public.
Okay. Well,
good question, though.
That's good to hear at least. That is very good to hear at least. But what I really hope, though, is, like I said, a lot of people here have made far more eloquent points than I, and I do hope that you listen to the people here, because what we really, I would say, we hold, we hold our county officials to, I would hope, a higher standard than we hold a lot of our regular government employees, because you have a much more direct impact on our day-to-day lives. And we hope that you listen to our needs as opposed to needs of people that are, say, out of state and don't necessarily live where we live and have the same worries and fears about what's going to happen to the area that we love and we moved here for. And we just hope that you'll listen to us. And, it may be cliche, but I love, the Cohutta slogan, there ain't no place like Cohutta. And I want to make sure that in, a couple years when my kids are born, I can tell them that same thing with true honesty, that there ain't no place like Cohutta, not there was no place like Cohutta. So I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Do we have one more, someone that wants to present something new?
I was the first speaker, so that makes 5.
Okay. I really appreciate all the comments, the great speakers, and sticking to the facts and giving us something to think about. So that was great. We do have any other agenda items that someone would like to speak on? There'll be a public comment at the end where you can speak on anything that you like. But if you have another agenda related item you'd like to tell us about, please come forward. Okay, we'll move forward. Oh, go ahead.
My name is Isaac Wheat of 2509 Highway 2 West. I'm here to speak on behalf of my uncle, Mark Cady, who is requesting a piece of property in Donville to be rezoned from suburban agriculture to general commercial. I'm asking if the commissioners would please send back that request to give us more time to look at the plan for the property. If you would please consider that, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right, we'll move to the next agenda item, number 11. We have our audit. I'm sure it'll be extremely exciting. But it is actually very important. You talk about making sure that we're taking care of the people's money and there's no ill procedures or no processes going on that's not in place. It's extremely important, and of course it's state required anyway, so we appreciate you getting to the bottom of all that and checking and make sure we're following the right processes.
Well, thank you, and good evening, members of the board. My name is James Spence. I'm the partner with Malden and Jenkins, who served on your county's audit for the year ending December 31st, 2021. What I'm going to go through tonight is our auditor's discussion and analysis. It's a smaller book that you have before you. I'm not going to read the entire thing, certainly plenty there for you to read on your own, but do want to hit a few highlights out of there, so if you'll flip with me on page 2, just a little bit of information about Malden and Jenkins. We are a regional audit firm. We serve about 600 local governments throughout the Southeast, and I've been with Malden and Jenkins for 18 years, serving as the audit engagement partner on your audit for this year's audit. All of our audits have 2 partner involvement. So again, I serve as the engagement partner. We also have a quality control partner who is not involved in the day-to-day audit exercise, but does review the entire file and the financial statements to make sure that we've included and covered all of the requirements in the auditing standards. And so Meredith Lipson served as that role for us this year. And each of us work year-round with local governments. On page 4, kind of the end result of the audit, we do conduct our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards as well as government auditing standards, which means that our objective of the audit is to issue an opinion as to whether or not your financial statements are materially correct as presented by management. And so we do not give absolute assurance. We do not test 100% of your transactions, but we're giving an opinion as to whether or not financial statements are materially correct. Through that process, we audit all of the information in your financial statements outside of the Department of Public Health. They have their own separate audit contract, and as their numbers are in your financial statements, our opinion on that relates to their auditor's opinion that they receive independently. And so they are included in your financials, however, they are not a part of our audit contract. We issued an unmodified opinion for the December 31st, 2021 audit. That's the clean opinion that you want to receive, stating that the financial statements as management prepared them are materially correct as presented. And so that's what you've received in the past, and that's certainly what every government is seeking to obtain from the auditors. On page 5, I do want to kind of take a minute to kind of pat management on the back and acknowledge the type of report you do. So the state of Georgia does require an annual audit of your basic financial statements. What the county's management has done for a few years now is they prepare an annual comprehensive annual financial report, which is more than a basic set of statements. And so what happens is they submit the financial statements to a national rating organization, GFOA, and last year for the December 31st, 2020 audit, we received a certificate in excellence in financial reporting. It's important to note that the majority of governments don't do this. And so in the state of Georgia, you've got 159 counties, and there's only about 51, 52 who take the time and effort to do the ACFR, as its acronym stands. And so Whitfield is one of those, and it's certainly something to be proud of. You know, when you talk about the municipalities and being over 500 municipalities in the state of Georgia, that's nearly 700 governments, and there's only about a third or less of those in the state of Georgia who do this additional reporting. So it is something to be proud of, and it does give a lot of information. In the back of your ACFR, it does give the statistical section, which is 10 years of historical data on the county's finances and economic information. So a lot of good information there for the county and its users. On page 7, just to pull out a few highlights from the year, keeping in mind we are looking at December 31st, 2021. We've got your general fund revenues, and so when a lot of governments, or a lot of any entity that's looking at a government, your general fund is typically where they're going to look to see how did we finish the year. And so you'll see here, the page 7 and page 8 has kind of a pie chart of where your revenues come, and you'll see, like most governments, your biggest source of revenues are your property taxes and your sales tax. And so in your general fund, you have your local option sales tax, and then separately in a different fund, you have your special purpose, the 1 penny capital sales tax that's in there. And so very traditional with your general fund relying heavily on those revenue sources. And you'll see here on page 8, again, very traditional of a general fund, your main expenditures for the year are your public safety and your general government operating expenditures. And so you've got about $20 million in public safety expenditures coming into the general fund for this last year. On page 9, we've got a 5-year trend of the net change in your general fund's fund balance. You'll see each of the past 5 years we've added to fund balance, and so we've been building our reserves in the general fund to get to a healthy level. This last couple of years we were actually lower than the past. That's because we've had some pretty significant transfers out of our general fund into the capital funds to help fund capital projects that we've been doing here in the county. On page 10, talking about your fund balance, one thing, again, when you try to look at general funds or entities' health, most places will look at your fund balance compared to your expenditures. And so you'll see here we've got the graph showing the past 6 years of where your fund balance sits. And as a point, for the last couple of years, you've kind of been in the 58% range of your fund balance being available for your annual expenditures. And so you've got about 200 days of operating in your fund balance when you start the year. It's important, and I guess as Mr. Garvin mentioned earlier, to keep that in mind, that all governments that rely on property taxes are going to be very cyclical in their revenue collections. And so you being a December year-end government, your fund balance is going to inherently be higher than a June 30 year-end government because you've just gone through your cash collection of your property taxes in the November-December timeframe. And so while that's a big fund balance, that's what you're going to use to cash flow the remainder of your year. And I think in your financial report, you mentioned your fund balance was up and going down as you've used it. Yep. For a December year-end, that's how it works, right? So you're going to have your fund balance, and you're going to ride that fund balance until the next property tax collection.
But you don't suggest that we continue to put into that. There's no reason to grow it any further. Is that a valid statement?
If inflation was not what it is, everyone's experiencing cost increase. All governments across the board, everything you do is costing more. The cost of employees, the cost of maintaining, attracting, it's costing everyone more. So we are kind of in a weird period from when you look at historically where fund balance have needed to be to where they are. Historically, GFOA has recommended you have about 3 months of reserves in your fund balance. Now, that's 10 years old, so now people are trying to build a little more cushion in their fund balance just in case we have revenues
Or recession.
that go away, and you've got to be able to survive that. So you can't look at yours at 50% and compare it to maybe a June 30 sitting at 15, 20%. You know, keep in mind you've got your operational needs sitting in yours because of the timing of your year end. On page 12, as part of the audit, we do issue 2 compliance reports. We issue what we call a yellow book report, which gives the results of our internal controls that we may have noted any deficiencies in internal controls, and the results of those testings, and then we have a single audit report. So anytime a local government has more than $750,000 of federal expenditures, you're required to have a single audit. We did conduct a single audit this year on your Corona State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds program, which is the funding under the ARPA program. We did test that program. You had about I believe it was 2.9 million in fiscal year 21, and we issued no non-compliance noted with that and no material weaknesses surrounding the controls of that program as we tested it. On page 14, a couple of items that I'm always happy to report when we can. If you've never been a part of an audit process, it's always fun. Everyone loves having an audit. So we send a list, we ask for a bunch of information, and then we start testing information and have more requests. Through this year's audit process, we did not have any difficulties working with your management team. So really appreciate the efforts that they've put together, Mr. Garvin and his team. And just anytime we have the opportunity to communicate with the governing bodies, that management was cooperative and willing to get us the information as we needed it. Always happy to do so. On page 15, 2 things to point out there. Again, we are an independent audit firm. We are external auditors. We are not a part of the information that was prepared in the financial statements, but we are auditing the financial statements. And then also on here, we did have a few audit adjustments in this year's audit process. Those have been provided to management and have been discussed and communicated and included in your financial statements as they're presented to you tonight.
And I think they were in our favor. Most of them were positive.
Yes. On page 16, while we did have some adjustments, none of them were deemed to be material adjustments. We do have 2 items that are reported in our Yellow Book report as findings in this year's audit. One of them is a segregation of duties issue. In a lot of your elected official custodial offices, you've got one individual who's responsible for a lot of the cash receipting, reconciliation, and accounting processes. Because of a shortage of staff in those offices and staff sizes, inherently that's what they have to work with. But because of that, there is a concern that there could be errors that happen that aren't detected because you've got one individual with access to kind of the entire receipting and dispersing process. This is something that anytime we see, we always want to bring to attention. This is not an issue where we have identified a problem other than the lack of segregation of duties. And so if we did identify any fraud, we would certainly have to bring that to your attention. This is merely just acknowledging that you've got situations in these offices where one individual has access to too much information. Also on the bottom of the page, we did have one compliance item where your governmental funds, we had three governmental funds, your SPLOST 2015, the Solid Waste District Special Revenue Fund, and the Hotel Motel Tax Special Revenue Fund, where those final budgets were set to consume more fund balance than available. In each of those instances, we didn't have any over expenditures. It was really just a math problem, if you will, on the budget setting side. Page 17, we had a couple of what we call management point items that we've met with management to go over these. Those are included for your information. Really the only one that I'll kind of touch on of significance is in your custodial funds. Back last year, they had to change their accounting practice with the implementation of a new accounting statement, and it requires them to kind of create a more traditional balance sheet. There were some unidentified funds dealing from some very old cases going back many years, dealing with where they've collected cash, but they don't have a history log of who it's owed to. They've been working over time to kind of trim those balances down and go back and dig through paper records to try to identify who this money belongs to. We still have that issue going into this year, but you can see in there the activity in some of these offices has actually gone down, and as far as they are being able to identify some of that, it's just a very time-consuming process. But Something that, until we kind of clean those up and get those captured, we'll continue to kind of give a status update of where we are with that. With that, the last thing I'll touch on page 18, GASB, which is the governing body that sets the accounting standards that governments follow. They have been busy setting standards for the last several years. We've got between statement number 87 and 97 currently out and applicable that will be applied to accounting over the next several years. GASB 87 is really the only one that's going to have a really big, significant impact on a lot of local governments. It'll be applicable to the county this next fiscal year, and it essentially is going to change the way we've accounted for capital and operating leases, whether you're the lessor or lessee, and now require you to make sure all of those leases are captured on your books and in your financials. And so management will be working on getting that information pulled together as they get ready to prepare for the 22 audit. Obviously, we still have time in that area, but it is going to be a big change that a lot of governments have to deal with. So certainly something we'll make sure that your management team is on top of and addressing as they get closer to year end. With that, if you all have any questions, I'd be happy to address them.
Any questions for the auditors? We did just receive the bound copy. Our finance director did give us some heads up a few days ago, but we just now got the copy. So I think we'd like to make a motion to accept it and post it on the web, but pending a 30-day review by the citizens and ourselves. I know you've already finished. You don't expect any changes, but if we find it or we have questions, we'd just like to have that 30-day option for corrections or questions. Is there a motion to that effect? Motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Staton. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 3-0 vote. Thank you.
Thank you all.
And like I said, it should be up, if not tomorrow, the next day, Wednesday for sure, on the website. All right, we had the public hearing on the alcohol beverage application, so now this is the actual vote to extend the license to Deep Springs. Is there any questions or concerns about this? I believe the background check and everything was favorable. Is there a motion to approve the application?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Staton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 3-0 vote. All right, this is our first and main rezoning recommendation. I think as some of the speakers alluded to, we have the option to, of course, deny the PUD and leave the R2 in place, which does have, I believe, according to the regional planning, allow for 900 to 1,000 homes, depending on the layout of the land, or approve the PUD with a condition. From the zoning board, there was only one condition, and that was a 30-foot buffer. Again, because we have an odd number, again, this is a long-standing rule for the board. I do not vote when there's not an odd number. So since we have one out, I cannot make motions or vote. But I do want to go on the record and saying I do disagree with the zoning board. If they weren't going to deny it, I feel like they should have added much more conditions than just that one. So those, either way, but you kind of lose the benefits. That's my personal opinion. The commissioners can decide and vote themselves, but I listed all the additional conditions that they did not adopt that are valid, such as limiting the commercial space, basically preventing these big box stores by reducing the space to 20,000 square feet. The buffers, which I know some people think is helpful, some people don't, but the signage also, and using newer LED lights that really reduce the light pollution by just focusing the light down and not outward like the old style lights such as the Food Line has. These are much more modern, and that's what we use at our parks now as well. So those were some of the conditions that were out there. There was also talk about GDOT, and if there was traffic issues or needs, that the developer would be responsible for any changes to the roading or deceleration lanes or red lights or what have you. So those were all the conditions that were not accepted by the zoning board. But what do you guys think? You've heard all the speakers. They were providing some good facts. We've gotten a lot of emails. I have shared all those emails, I assure you. If you send it just to me, I made sure all of the commissioners had it. I tried to respond to everyone, make sure everybody has the same facts. Can have different opinions, but we all need the same facts. That's my stance.
Yeah, I'm the commissioner of District 3. I live in Pleasant Grove and represent Pleasant Grove north to the state line. I grew up at Pleasant Grove. And I feel like I grew up working on a farm. Where I live now, there's commercial development on the farm that I grew up on, less than a half a mile. I know growth, development, change in general. I know it hurts, but I just feel like we need the residential growth. We don't have enough homes. No, it's not the perfect development, but I appreciate the fact that it is going to be slow growth, I feel like. The other thing I'll mention, before the new Coahulla Creek High School was built, there were studies done, and that's been well over 10 years ago, that's the area that was poised for residential growth. And now, that's where we find ourselves now. And I plan personally to stay involved with the development. And, one other thing I want you to know that I haven't tried to hide. I've called everybody back. I've listened to your concerns, and I appreciate them. I just feel for the best case for this county is to approve the development. So I'm going to be voting yes on it.
Other comments or suggestions?
Is that a motion?
Anybody else want
Have you got any kind of restrictions or anything you want to add to that, or?
Well, I would like, I think and Gene, you can help me with this, that we would be able to restrict it to a minimum on the single-family dwellings to a minimum of 1,600. Yes, sir. So, right now, how is it?
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to add that to it, that no single-family dwelling can be less than 1,600 heated and cooled space.
And what about these other conditions?
The ones that
Yeah, these
you
are not.
mentioned?
Or the ones, yeah, if you got the screen there. Limiting the commercial size. There was a vegetation buffer along the main roads, which was not in there. Limiting the signage and limiting the lights.
I'm okay with the other stuff and of course, increasing the buffer to the 30.
Yep, that's that. And so,
Right.
That's a motion.
Commissioner Staton, do you have anything to add or subtract, or?
If we're going to do it, I'd like to add the 1,200 square foot minimum for multifamily units.
Well, he said 1,600. Do you want to change that?
No, that,
16 for single family.
Oh, I see.
1,600?
1,600 for single.
family and then the multifamily.
And Gene, what is it today on the multi, or it's just whatever the building code allows? Which is probably 800 or 900 something.
Do you,
Commissioner, any other changes or suggestions?
No, that's it. I mean, I'd just like to say for the record, I'm a CPA by day. This has been very emotional for everyone in here. I live in the Donville community. I played Coahulla when I was a kid. I understand. But we as commissioners, we got two ways to bring in revenues to help lower the property taxes, and that's increase the tax base. And also the population has actually declined over the last 10 years, along with Whitfield County Schools. So I do believe we have talked to the school system. I do believe they are not.
1,200 was the number they gave me. They said 1,200 fewer than 2014, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, approximately. Fewer children. Mr. Jones, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we've we got a declining population, and if the population continues to decline, everybody's taxes are gonna have to go up. And we have a housing shortage.
There's lots of development going in everywhere right now, though. That's what we're here about. You don't have to add this to it. There's a lot more already going in.
Okay.
So wait. It hasn't even come online yet.
Zach, you want people coming in who don't agree with our area, don't agree with our lifestyle, these things?
Okay, this is just for the commissioners. Thank you, though.
Okay, I'm good.
All right, so the motion is to accept the zoning board's PUD with the addition of a 1,200 minimum on multifamily, 1,600 minimum on single family, limiting the commercial to neighborhood, and no one tenant over 20,000 square feet, a vegetation buffer, additional vegetation buffer on Cleveland Highway and Strain Road, a monument signage no greater than 15 feet, and LED lighting for any parking lots or streets.
What about the developer pays for any traffic issues that have to be?
Any GDOT recommended changes to the Cleveland Highway
and the Strain Road.
and Strain Road from the county, that's right.
It doesn't matter, we can add that.
Yeah, you're right. Those are the ones from the analysis. We are adding additional ones. The square footage wasn't in the analysis either.
Right.
So that's a complicated motion, but I want to make sure everybody is on the same page.
And the 30-foot buffer would encompass the entire development. I don't know if you were saying Strain Road and just Cleveland Highway, the way it sounded. I may have taken it
Yeah,
wrong,
it-
but it's a 30-foot buffer
Around the
that
whole
encompasses
All four sides.
all, right.
All right. Who wants to make that motion? John, that's your motion?
Make a motion to approve it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Other further discussion?
Chairman, just to clarify, is the motion to require the buffer along the commercial part of the property too? Because what was approved showed it going around the perimeter, but not on the commercial part.
Right, adding the vegetation buffer along Cleveland Highway and Strain Road was what they left off, which I believe is the commercial area, Cleveland Highway. That's where they want the commercial part.
No, that commercial portion then would be left out of the 30.
Of the 30.
Right.
But we'd have still added additional vegetation on Strain Road and Cleveland Highway itself. Like Patterson doesn't have vegetation on Cleveland Highway today. I don't know if they're going to add it, but they don't have it. So this would add that. And then the lights, I understand the light pollution. I believe the modern LED will help to some degree. Nothing's perfect. We have a motion by Commissioner Thomas, a second by Commissioner Jones. Any other discussion from our Gene or our attorney or anyone? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 3-0 vote. Our next zoning, there's 3 parcels. I know one of them has been asked to be postponed or returned, but the first 2 were approved by zoning for R5s. Is there a motion to accept the zoning on the first one, Alexander Tucker and Tammy Jo Kirk, to move to R5? Those were approved by the zoning board.
I make a motion.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second by Commissioner Staton? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. That passes on a 3-0 vote. The third one, the final zoning for tonight, is Mark Caddy. He requested both verbally and in email to delay. Do we want to honor that, or do we want to accept the zoning, which was to deny the rezone?
I'll make a motion to accept the planning commission's recommendation.
Motion by Commissioner Staton to accept the denial. Is there a second? Going once, is there a second to accept the denial? Is there a third? That motion
I'll
fails.
second it.
You're seconding the motion to accept the denial. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor of accepting the denial? And they'll have to wait 1 year before they can resubmit. Raise your hand or say aye. Passes on a 3-0 vote. Tunnel Hill, item 14, has an annexation, one piece of property. I take that back. Maybe there's two pieces. No, yeah, just one parcel. The way they've got it drawn, it looks like there's a couple pieces, but one parcel. No land use objection was found for that parcel. Is there a motion to approve the annexation into Tunnel Hill? Motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Staton. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 3-0 vote. We have a request to reappoint Catherine Sellers to the Dalton Whitfield Library, the Board of Directors for the library itself. Is there a motion to accept her appointment?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Thomas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Staton. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 3-0 vote. There was a proposed budget calendar that our county administrator and finance director came up with starting in August next month through September. Will be the departments working on the budgets and meetings. Then they would present to the commissioners. We do plan to have all of those in public for each department, including elected officers such as the sheriff, tax commissioners, and others. And then in November, we'll consider the amendments, and then we'll approve the final budget in December. I think the only change that I would suggest is you could not make amendments in the meeting in November. I don't mind having the amendments ahead of time, but I want the flexibility if you guys want to change it at the meeting itself, that we would still accept amendments at the meeting. So that was the only change I saw that I would recommend. We do have to accept this calendar by state law. Is there a motion to approve the 2023 budget planning calendar?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Staton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 3-0 vote. All right, we have a grant application. We always are looking for new grants. This is related to our bridges. We've made good progress. We're working on a lot of bridges right now. It's a big infrastructure item nationwide, security and structures of our bridges. So we are looking for approval to apply for the Bridge Investment Program, a federal program. Does require a 20% match, but of course that would be a tremendous savings over us buying and building a new bridge ourselves. So we do have some bridges that engineering has had to reduce the weight limit on, reduce the speed limit on, and then ultimately they will get condemned and no traffic can go over it. So we need to be proactive. And this will allow us to do that without a SPLOST or using property tax money, either one. We don't know if we'll win, but we'll try.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Jones to approve that. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 3-0 vote. This is our CHIP grant. We received that approved, and our county administrator spoke about that earlier. That was last month. We got the approval for it, but now, of course, with the federal grants, that's the only downside to these grants. It's great that we win, but we have to adopt certain kind of policies and procedures. So we're in compliance with it. There's no money that we have to put out with the CHIP grant, but we do have to put in paperwork, basically. So there was 3 resolutions, or 2 resolutions and 1 policy in your packet. That was sent out 6 days ago. I need approval to adopt those resolutions.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Thomas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 3-0 vote. All right, number 19, Hammond Creek HOA. This is not related to any taxes or TADs. We are a member of Hammond Creek because we own the tax commissioner's office that was built off the bypass. I guess we renovated that and moved in a little over a year ago. And that HOA has been dormant, and they have the right to charge us fees and things like that on the commercial side, as well as there's a residential side of it. This cleans that up, so all the members, all the people that own property there opt to sign this to basically make sure that we can't be restricted or own property. There was bankruptcy, so it's pretty messy. This cleans that up and prevents us from being charged HOA fees in the future. Is there a motion to approve the HOA covenants?
Make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Staton. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 3-0 vote. All right, our fire department, we can have the chief come up if we need to, but we know we have some old stations. We've got several new stations online in the last couple of years, but we've got some old stations that need to be remodeled, especially with leaking plumbing. We've been cleaning up mold and replacing HVAC, but we need a way for these guys to continue to operate and have a portable plumbing, showers and toilets and sinks and things like that, so they can operate out of there while the remodeling is going on. So you can imagine that if that's your only bathroom and kitchen, you need something to do. So we could lease this or we could buy it, but it was about 3 times more expensive to lease it while we roll out the 6 remodel jobs. So we need approval to use 2020 SPLOST funds for $33,986 to purchase this mobile shower and restroom facility and take it from one fire station to the other. And then we can either sell it at the end of the remodel project, or we can use it at our training station, I think is what the best, where there's not any facilities out there today. So we have 2 options once we're finished with that.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Staton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 3-0 vote. Parks and Rec. We are now moving to the west side with the successful opening of our park on Riverbend Road, or out off the bypass on Riverbend. So the west side, we've got to purchase the lighting, the turf, put those orders in because there's a lead time on those. And then also with the changes at Edwards Park with the new traffic flow, we also had a sign that didn't survive because it was just too rotten to move, and we tore that down. So I'd like to put a new sign similar to what we did at Riverbend, same theme, but just, of course, letting everybody know it's Edwards Park. So we don't have any sign on Cleveland Highway at this point. So 2 things for the west side, and that, of course, is required by the 2020 SPLOST, and then 1 just to replace that sign at Edwards. Is there a motion for these? They were the low-cost provider. It did go through the quote and bid process, 3 different places.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Staton. Approve all 3. Is there a second? By Commissioner Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Passes on a 3-0 vote. Tunnel Hill, we own that Tunnel Hill property, but they would like to have one of their officers, a police officer from Tunnel Hill, live in that facility as part of his pay package, compensation package. He would also maintain the lawn, keep the whole historic site secure. When there's a security police officer living there and a car parked out front, that tends to deter criminals. And we have had vandalism out there, so it's not unheard of for sure. That was maybe 6 months ago. We have a lease agreement, but we just need to get the approval to sign it with Tunnel Hill.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Second. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Staton. Any further discussion? Okay, and that wasn't in the current draft that I have?
It was implied, but they wanted it specific.
I'll amend my motion to that.
Commissioner Jones amends his motion to include a termination clause related to employment. And then the second was Commissioner Staton? Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 3-0 vote. We recently had the resignation of Dwayne Hunt. He's now moved to a job in the private sector, and as I mentioned, we wish him well in this new venture. We have an interim director. He's a current employee and a former Dalton Utilities, so he's got quite a bit of experience in the roads and civic engineering. And we need a motion to approve him as inter-director. We'll do a nationwide search for a permanent replacement, but I don't know if that's going to take 2 months or 20 months or how long. So, motion by Commissioner Staton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hands or say aye. Any opposed, nay. He is our interim director. And speaking of public works, we've got a bid and a design from Southeast Engineering. They helped us with the bid process to get several bidders, and we have a low-cost bid of $298,095 to re-engineer. Commissioner Staton and I went out there approximately a year ago. There's limited sight distance. The roads come in at crazy angles, which makes it dangerous. So this is a project we would definitely been long overdue, and we would like to use the 2020 SPLOST funds to do that. If there is a motion to approve the quote in the packet.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Thomas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Staton. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. That passes on a 3-0 vote. And if, Bob, if we could get an update on what their ETA just to get started, I'd like to know that whenever you discuss that with our new Public Works Director. Second item for Public Works is a design study by Southeastern as well for the Creek Edge subdivision, which has, I think, had some damaging and resurfacing problems related to the geography and the way that was installed, and so we want to fix that. What do they call it? Full depth reclamation. I don't know what that is, Mr. Jones, but it sounds bad.
It's basically grinding it up and starting over.
Because it was not installed properly, or something changed under the ground, one of the two. But anyway, we want to know what the cheapest and the best, of course, solution for the long term is for this subdivision, and so that would come out of our general fund budget of $12,000 to do that study. Is there a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Staton. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Any opposed, nay. Passes on a 3-0 vote. So we have some projects. Kent is back in the saddle again. Mr. Benson, you had a few updates for us. We have several, I don't know if I called it right, Donville Road. I know there's several roads that come together out there at that intersection. Toonerville, is that what it's called? Toonerville, sorry, yeah. And Good Hope, I think, is all out there as well. All those come together in a dangerous intersection, similar to McGoy Chapel, but different part of the county.
Right. So you got Beaverdale Road there, and Boyles Mill crossing, and then you got Donville Beaverdale, which comes in at the angle at the bottom of the screen there. And as you're aware, we've had some fairly serious accidents there and some fatalities at that intersection. The previous Public Works Director installed some rumble strips to try to gain people's attention.
Additional stop signs, I think, or warning signs, something like that.
Larger stop signs.
But it apparently didn't help.
Right. So what we're looking to do is the Donville Beaverdale, you see the skew that it comes in on. We're looking to realign that portion of the road to bring it in at a right angle to Beaverdale Road. So it'll move it farther away from the intersection and make people come to a complete stop at the stop sign rather than being able to maintain their speed. And really, there is a stop sign. They're supposed to stop.
But they've been blowing through it.
They've been blowing through it. And then we'll look at the addition of a traffic signal at the intersection. We considered a roundabout, but considering the limited space available and the cost of a roundabout versus a traffic signal, we're looking at the traffic signal first.
Okay.
So design, we have to get surveyors out there to begin design on that project. So we'll start that right away. The courthouse parking deck facade repairs, Chuck Fetzer and I got with the structural engineer, the original designer of the parking deck, looked the parking deck over. As you know, we've had some loose brick, not anything that's been a danger other than one area in a stairwell, and we went ahead and removed those brick to keep them from being a danger.
Now, to be clear, the city has a parking deck that is condemned right now. It's not safe. It's got structural problems. Ours has no structural problems. This is the one by the courthouse, closer in to the middle of town, not by the railroads. But it does have loose brick, which does not impact but we don't want it falling on anybody.
That's right. The brick is purely cosmetic, but loose brick could be a hazard, so we do want to make sure we get that fixed. One of the problems was water getting behind the brick.
And freezing.
And the 4 stairwells at the corners each have a roof on them, and those roofs were leaking down in and allowing water to get behind the brick. The roofs have been replaced, so the water is no longer getting behind the brick, but some damage was done. And we have March Adams, the original structural engineer, designing some fixes for us in places to keep brick that doesn't appear to be a problem now. We want to make sure it's not a problem in the future. Any loose brick, of course, will be removed and replaced.
And then so he's still doing that design or that study?
That's right.
Do we know what his ETA is, or?
I tried to contact him last week, and he was out of town last week. The West Side Park field drainage, there's a couple of things going on at West Side, and I'm not totally clear on which project you're asking for the update on here.
Was that the sewers, related to the sewers, or related to just water flow, regular surface water?
I don't know.
There's a problem with the septic field
Right.
that Brian's having to have the tanks pumped, and we are.
And we're extending the sewers out there, but I don't know if
That's right.
that's probably gonna be 6 more months before they even get there.
We are extending the sewers out there, and everything that's currently there and any new facilities, of course, will be connected to the sewer.
Have you spoken with Dalton Utilities? Do we have an update on the sewer that we agreed to on the south side and the west side a couple of months ago?
I have spoken to them. I don't have a date for you. It is kind of a linear process for them to move through the SPLOST projects that were approved. And this, of course, wasn't a SPLOST project.
Right.
I'm not saying it's their lowest priority. I'm just saying there's a limited number of contractors, and a limited amount of resources to put on some of these larger sewer projects. So they do have this on their list of projects, and I don't know the exact order.
Okay.
But it's coming up in the next 6 months to a year.
Okay.
For them to begin. Okay.
Yes?
Talking about the problem with the drainage, is that the same area where we spend all this money on this turf and put the turf on the soccer field?
It's the same park, yes. Maybe not the same area, but it is the same park. Yeah, we need to fix both problems at the same time.
We're gonna fix the drainage before we put the turf on.
Yeah, we're gonna put the sewers in and the turf in. But you're right, it is the same area.
Okay, and then the subdivision regulations update, our staff has met with several of the commissioners so far. I don't believe we've met with you yet.
Not yet, no.
And we do want to include some stakeholders in the community, both on the building side and on the HOA side and the citizen side. But we want to update our regulations to get rid of some things that have been allowed, such as extruded curb, which has been a maintenance nightmare for decades now.
Yep.
We want to allow builders to build a more economical road. A lot of builders are shying away from building an interior road and creating a major subdivision in favor of splitting off parcels on existing county roads, but that brings its own problems.
With driveways, yeah, on the major intersections.
We want to try to encourage development that includes an interior subdivision road.
Okay.
So we think that some of these changes will, and of course these will come before the board and then of course before the public before they ever make it into the county code, but we do feel like they will encourage development and provide more economical but also more sensible development.
Just going back to the very first one, so is SEI going to look at that, or who are you going to engage to do that study, or you kind of already know what to do?
On Donville Beaverdale Road,
Yep.
Atlas.
With who?
Atlas. would
Atlas,
be
okay.
the-
But you don't know, they're going to provide us a quote for next month, or we can even approve it in the meantime?
We can do it before next month and ratify, or we
Yeah,
can.
because it is, like I said, I don't want anybody else getting hurt out there, so,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll move ahead on that.
that'd be great.
All right. Any questions?
Any other questions, other commissioners? Okay, good update. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have public comment about other topics that weren't on our agenda or covered, so. I see Mr. TJ making his way up there and a few other people, that's fine. Anybody wants to talk about their assessments, we'll get full agreement from me.
Yes, you're correct. I want to make a note about this recent assessment. I received it a few days ago. I saw the increase. And my instant reaction was some profound words which cannot be stated in public.
Understand.
And then I thought about it for the next 3 days. And this is what I have come, so to speak, a circle on. There is nothing that I'm doing today, personally, business-wise, that hasn't seen an increase in cost, a substantial increase in cost. I've also seen some neighbors sell a house, some neighbors buy a house, and one of them's already moving out. And I've seen where the values have gone up. And I compared it to my assessment, and the assessment seemed reasonable. Now, let me preface my comments with the statement, I'm not all for it, but I think we have to stop and reflect a little bit and understand, because my first reaction was to call one of my neighbors who lives in Dalton, who also is a commissioner, or in Dawnville, I should say, and say, what the hell's going on? But I realize you don't do the assessments.
Right.
If anything, I've never seen a situation where somebody comes in and levies a charge on me, like my utility bill's gone up, and my insurance company never comes up and says, well, let me help you with that utility bill by lowering the cost of your insurance. You guys have made a statement to that effect, and I think it's prudent that you wait, see the outcome, and then adjust the tax assessment.
Right.
But the fact that you are looking at that to mitigate increase in costs, I note, and I appreciate that. I came to Dalton in 1990. Dalton Whitfield has been my residence since. My first words to my friends when I came here was, I'm going there for 60 days, then I'll be out of Dodge, back in Alpharetta. At the 40-day mark, I thought, why would I live in Atlanta and commute to Dalton? I could live in Dalton, Whitfield, and commute to Atlanta. Needless to say, I believe we're one of the best, or the best area in the greatest state of our union, which without doubt is the most awesome country on the face of this earth. We have low crime. We have excellent law enforcement. We have a good school system. We don't need an emissions inspection for tags because our air is clean. And there's a price to pay for these things. These things don't come free. I've disagreed with commissioners, I've agreed with commissioners, but at the end of the day, the only thing that hasn't increased as we've grown, as we've succeeded, is any element of fear. Fear of government, fear of crime, fear of overextended overreach by government. Other than that, everything has been positive. And I know there are issues that polarize us. All I can say is I pray that we take these polarizing issues and look at ourselves and see how we can see eye to eye after that. Because that is the only way to preserve living in greatest place on earth. I thank you for your time.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for doing business in Whitfield County, too.
Hello, I'm Stacy Doran. I live at 3208 Wright Road in Rocky Face, Georgia. I'm here today to talk to you about how elections are run in our county and to share with you all that you are the governing authority of this county who has rights by Georgia law to make changes that I personally and many citizens I'm in contact with and have been in contact with for well over 15 months now echo across this state, and I'm sure you all have heard that. So first I'll just say, what is the standard by which you measure the success of an election? I hope none of you or any election official in this county would answer speed, ease, or efficiency, because the only measure that should be used for success is accuracy, that every legal voter's vote is counted correctly. I'm here today to ask you to partner with the citizens of our county and our election board to properly secure our elections and support transparency. We don't trust our votes across this county and across this state. We don't trust that they're being counted correctly. And I'm going to talk to you about why. And I'm going to say, if we don't trust those votes, why would we vote in the future? Why would we continue? U.S. District Court case Curling v. Raffensperger, October 11, 2020. Judge Amy Totenberg ruled the machines are illegal and unfit for use in Georgia's elections, citing the following Georgia Code. OCGA 21-2-2 7.1 must print an elector verifiable paper ballot. OCGA 21-2 300A2 must produce paper ballots which are marked with the elector's choice in a format readable by the elector. The voting machines being used for elections in our county are black boxes. They hide our votes in an unverifiable QR code, and this violates Georgia law. While a human readable text is printed on a paper ballot, this is not how the scanner scans and tabulates that vote. And this is what makes them illegal to use in our elections. Therefore, if we keep using them, we're conducting illegal elections in our state, and we have since 2020. Cyber expert Alex Halderman was given access to these machines that we're using in our state, and his report documents the extreme peril these machines expose to our election process. Then we have, on June 3rd, 2022, CISA released their advisory. Have you all read that? Have you all looked over that advisory? Okay, it's deeply concerning. I have it here, and I've highlighted it, and I can share this notes and this report with you all. I have an IT background. I have graduated from UGA with MIS, and I've worked in the field for over 20 years, and I can tell you it is very concerning what's in this report. And they echoed Mr. Halderman's reports on the concerns with these machines. Then I'll provide to you DeKalb County, Georgia, May 24, 2022 primary election. They conducted a hand count audit when one of the people on the ballot found she got no votes in her own district where she and her husband voted. So they did a hand recount. You know that they found 4,000 votes were credited to the wrong candidates in that race by the machines, and the hand recount is what counted it, the paper ballot. They had to use the human readable portion of those ballots because the QR code got it wrong when the machine scanned it. That flipped the race. She went from third to first place in that race.
Saw that.
We have seen the judicial system, our governor, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, and our legislators point fingers at who is responsible to act, and none of them have done anything. We feel like we are ignored. This is the single most important thing we have as citizens of a supposed free country, and our voice is not being heard, and our votes, we are seriously doubt they're really being counted right in this state, in this county. And if we can't trust our elections, the brilliance and greatness of our Constitution doesn't matter. Article 2, Section 1, Paragraph 1 of our Georgia State Constitution says, method of voting, elections by the people shall be by secret ballot and shall be conducted in accordance with the procedures provided by law. Guess what? We're not conducting our elections by law based on the fact that we don't have a verifiable ballot. We have our vote in a QR code. So, what is the Georgia law that gives this governing authority and our election board the right to stop using these machines, to go back to Amish voting, as some people put it, that they do it in Europe, they do it in a day, they count it, and they get it right. And guess what? You take out all the complexity of people having to know the machines, use the machines, which we have a detriment in understanding of these machines. It's a very complicated system. Why are we complicating something that should be simple? That should be we should have audit procedures that are easy and simple and executed. You throw a machine in the equation, you've complicated everything. OCGA 2-2-281, in any primary election in which the use of voting equipment is impossible or impractical, for the reasons set out in 21-2-334, the primary or election may be conducted by paper ballot in the manner provided in Code Section 21-2-334. That code section reads, and this applies to the Board of Elections, I understand that. It reads, voting by paper ballot when use of voting machine is impossible or impractical if a method of nomination or election or any candidate or office or voting on any question is prescribed by law in which the use of voting machines is not possible or practical, or in any case, in any primary election, the number of candidates seeking nomination or nominated for any office renders the use of voting machines for such office impractical, or if for any other reason at any primary election the use of the machines wholly or in part is not practical, the superintendent, our election board, may arrange to have the voting for such candidates or offices conducted on paper ballots. It goes on with some more detail, but that's the meat of it. And then 21-2-366, for this board, this governing authority of our county, at any regular meeting or at any special meeting called for the purpose by majority vote, authorize and direct the use of optical scanning voting systems for recording and computing the vote at elections held in the county or municipality. If so authorized and directed, the governing authority shall purchase, lease, or rent, otherwise procure optical scanning voting systems conforming to this requirements. So, now that obviously still involves a scanner, but you start with a paper ballot, not completed on a ballot marking device that produces a QR code, and you scan it and you tabulate with a much more simple scanner. So, again, I ask this governing body to consider that it's our Constitution that we're protecting when we're protecting the vote. Thank you.
Okay. Can you leave your report with Blanca? If you have a report or the references to those laws, you can leave it with Blanca over there. Thank you. Hello?
I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but I feel like this needs to be said while it's maybe a little too late. I think it needs to be a reminder to all of you. If you don't remember, it's been a while since I've been in school, and I know that if I've been a while, all of y'all have also been a while, no offense. But if you remember, the government was created specifically to speak for the people. The government is meant to be for the people and by the people and of the people. Every one of these people in here have come for a reason. So many people in here have been against the rezoning that we just heard about. You heard tons of people, and I'm watching these people. These people are not public speakers. I am not a public speaker. I'm listening to these people, their voice tremble, they're sweating, they're shaking, but they're standing up here to tell you what they want. And not a single one of you stood up for our beliefs. You are here specifically to be employed by everyone in here. We voted you in, we can take you out. And I believe this is gonna go further. We're gonna make sure that it goes further, because I believe that there is somebody in the government system somewhere that remembers that they are employed by us and they are there to speak for us. And I just want y'all to remember that.
Darrell Long, 4310 Troy Lane, Dalton. heard a lot of people say something, including you, Mr. Chairman, about our elderly. For 9 years, I've been trying to get Whitfield County Commissioners to put on the ballot and let people vote whether our seniors get the same tax break from Whitfield County tax as they get from Whitfield County school tax. I've even had it wrote up so that it can just be straight sent to legislators. And y'all refused to do it, and the ones before you refused to do it. The group before you said if it's put on the ballot, it'd pass by 85%, and they didn't want it, so they wasn't gonna let nobody vote. Now, you're gonna have a special called election for this thing you wanna do about adjusting the taxes.
Homestead.
If you're gonna have that, why don't we put on the ballot and let people vote whether our seniors get the same tax break from Whitfield County tax they get from Whitfield County school tax? Give you a little idea of what you've done. My personal taxes went up 300%. And the reason they went up 300% is when y'all increased taxes, y'all put me back to paying school taxes. I was exempt from them, and now I'm back paying them. I'm blessed, I do pest control. But if I had to live off my income from Social Security, after everything, the insurance part and everything's over with, I got $324 a month to live off of. Y'all just increased my taxes enough that I'm paying 1 month of my income just to Whitfield County. And I keep hearing this by you gentlemen, and it makes me angry. We know you're against this, but we want to do what's best for Whitfield County. That was said here tonight. We want to do what's best for Whitfield County. I'd like to point something out to you guys that apparently y'all don't know. Right here is Whitfield County. We are Whitfield County. We didn't elect you to do what's best for us. We elected you to do what we want done. We're not children. We work, we earn our own living, and we asked you to represent us. We elect you to represent us. We don't tell you to tell us that we got to eat our vegetables before we can have dessert because we're children. Y'all are here to represent us and not to do what's best for us, but to represent us and do what we want done.
Ma'am, I didn't get your name, the one that spoke before Daryl. What was your name?
Tiffany Livingston.
Can you say it real loud?
Tiffany Livingston.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Margaret Thigpen, Director of Tourism. I just wanted to make the commissioners aware of 2 events that we've got coming up for this month. We've got Youth Basketball of America in with their Boys Nationals, July 13th through 20th, using Eastbrook, Riverbend, and Matt Gadsden. We've got teams as far away as Puerto Rico coming in for this event. And we also have a nighttime tunnel tour at our Tunnel Hill Tunnel and Museum on July the 28th, and you can get more information on that at civilwarrailroadtunnel.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before we adjourn? Nick?
I'll be quick.
Sure.
I was clearing some land Saturday, and I hit a nest of yeller jackets. One stung, so I'm going to say a few things here. It's like we're in the middle of a yellow jacket's nest, and I'm going to say some comments here. They may sting, but I appreciate your job, and I respect you guys. But we're disagreeing on some things, and I think I speak for a lot of folks out there. I've been hearing some stuff from folks through social media. But anyway, my name is Nick Boyles. Nick Boyles. I reside at 1334 Presley Road. Ms. Jensen, when your campaign started off, I had a personal conversation with you. I don't know if you remember it or not, but I called you up on the phone, and just getting your idea of how you saw our county progressing. That was a couple of years ago, Ms. Jensen, as you're well aware of. My concern was that we were building all these smaller homes. We were losing our big taxpayers. They were moving out of the county. And my thoughts, and it's coming true, was that our property tax was just astronomical. We're surrounded by counties with lower income taxes. Of course, Catoosa County, we're building a lot of houses here. I'm a home builder. We're building a lot of homes here in Whitfield County. Catoosa County is whipping our butt. They've got developments going on, and they're not these Cracker Jack box houses that we've got going on around our schools and what we're about to put up there on Cohutta, 1,200 square foot multi-family joints. So we need to be attracting those folks back. We used to be the carpet capital of the world not too many years ago. Same time, we had the most millionaires per capita. A few years after that, everything went downhill. We became the county, one of the lowest as far as poverty, one of the lowest numbers in the state. We were below the national average, and that's been not too long ago. Yep. So we're going in the wrong direction. And we need to get these folks back. Y'all had a firm come in here a few months ago when you were studying the TAD, trying to get us to accept TADs as we voted the TADs down. Of course, y'all came back and voted try to pass it to help Varnell out, to help Patterson Farms out. I kind of feel that might come up here in a few months when they get that development going up on Cohutta. So we need to keep that in mind. The TADs were ineffective. We didn't have a TAD to spur this development, and we were seeing record home sales. Whitfield County is experiencing a boom. Red Hill over there, they got Cracker Jack box houses going up there left and right. We got building inspectors spending a day up there, just inspecting homes. So we've got the construction going on, but still, as that report showed, 50% of our population who makes $40,000 or more live outside our county. Now that was from a report, a study that our tax dollars paid for, and our tax dollars keep going up, and we're not attracting these people back. They keep leaving. We're building a home up in Catoosa County, right this moment. Friday morning, a fellow that works for the assessor's department there in Catoosa County came to inspect, see how close we were to completion. I say this to prove my point. We're building that home for a couple who lives in Whitfield County. They're renting the home. They're building a home in Catoosa County to get these lower property taxes. And I realize you guys, your hands are tied. It seems that everyone we speak with, the tax assessors, they blame it on the state. We speak to you, and you blame it on the tax assessors. I build houses. I can't do everything, so I've got folks that I rely on, and we work together to get that house built. Folks, you need to do the same thing. All it takes is y'all working together. We're hearing reports that you're going to roll back the millage rate, which appreciate that. But I kind of find it difficult that as Mary, you got a sister paying, whose values went up 65%. I find it hard to believe that you're going to roll that millage rate back enough to offset her taxes.
She needs to appeal. Right.
And I know another fellow that I spoke with yesterday, his home values went up 70%. 70%. And I can give you the name. And you're telling us, you're putting these, I have respect for you, Jevin. I'm not, like I said, this may sting, but I'm stating fact. You put out reports through the paper that you're going to roll back the millage rate to offset our taxes.
As much as we legally can.
Okay,
Right.
but you've got these folks believing that they're not going to pay taxes because you're going to roll the millage rate back. We need to make that, you know,
Clear, yeah.
not
We're
in
gonna be
small
able-
letters, not in small letters. You know, the headline reads.
I don't control the newspaper.
Okay,
now.
I know you
don't
can't control the newspaper. You can't control the newspaper.
I said it was probably going to be 18%.
But we're going to go. We're going to be going back through this again when they get their tax bill and they think, well, he said he was going to roll back millage rate and do away or.
I'm encouraging everybody to appeal because that's my only
Right.
other. At this point, that's the only other thing I can say. Appeal and I'll roll back. That's a combination. We work together. But
Absolutely.
I'm working on a
Absolutely.
long-term solution. I don't have it today.
Absolutely. I know you are. I know you are.
We're in agreement so far.
And I'll finish up. There's some other things I want to cover here, but I know everybody's ready to go home. But that fellow that I was talking with who Friday, who works for the tax assessor's office there in Catoosa County, we asked him. He said, are y'all going to assess your property values? He said, no. He said, our chief appraiser, director of the department said, no, we will not face the public at a time like this to have our citizens paying extra increased property tax. The kicker here, and I think they're having a meeting at 8:30 in the morning. I'm going to talk to Ashley. The kicker here is Ashley O'Donnell, who's a chief appraiser at Whitfield County, if I'm not mistaken. He is a chief appraiser.
He is.
If you look at his social media platform, he lives out of county. So you got this guy who lives out of the county in a lower tax county, property tax county, setting property values that are killing the folks that he's paying him to do it. You guys must live in the district in which you represent. Why are we giving this guy that we're paying to do this job, why are we giving him a free ride to go live in a county with less property taxes? It's not right. That's a concern. That's a concern. And it brings up, you know, why folks like she would get up here and kind of question. You know, we voted the TAD down as a county. We voted the TAD down because we didn't feel it would be advantageous. We didn't feel that it was worth the risk. And it's not looking good with the economy tanking, so I'm not sure. That was just my personal opinion. That may have been a pretty good decision on behalf of the Whitfield County residents. But you guys went, as she stated, you guys decided to bring it up for a vote again to go against what the citizens wanted. Fortunately, we had a couple of guys here present up there that helped the citizens out. We appreciate that. One of the commissioners who voted against said, it's not what the citizens want, so I was not going to vote for it. Another gentleman sitting there said, you know, I'm not going to put that burden on citizens to pay my taxes. That's the reason. If he was in the same position, he said, I'm not going to ask someone else to pay my taxes. That was his reason for voting against it. So. It kind of makes us concerned, Jeff, and I think you would agree that are you doing these things in our best interest, or is there some other motive involved there? You know, we're and I just mentioned this.
We're way over on time. You got
One last thing, and I'm out. We're building all these homes up in the north end. All our industrialization is going down on the south end. Cleveland Highway is going to be a parking deck. Folks, I appreciate you, and y'all have a good night. And I am praying for you guys.
You are what? I didn't catch that.
Praying for us.
Oh, thank you.
Praying for us. Yes. Good.
All right. Do we have a motion to adjourn? What's that? Oh, okay.
My name's Holly Tucker, and I live at 449 Plainview Drive in Dalton, and I've never been to one of these before. I can say kudos to you because you're the only person that has actually given a response to something that somebody asked. But what I will say is, other than that one time, nobody has said anything. And one person hasn't even looked at the crowd or the people as they spoke. They looked at their computer the entire time. So I just hope that moving forward, you do listen to the people here, because I was born and raised here, and I want my family to be here. And what you're doing is going to risk the future generations that live here and were born and raised here.
Gentlemen, my name's Timothy Daniel, 4037 Village Drive. I wrote you all an email. I don't know if you got it. I don't know if you read it. But here's the gist of what I'm going to say is I think it would only take one no from the people at the farm to object to a similar development next to the farm. And y'all would jump on that no like a dog on a cat. But what are you doing here? You're not listening to this no. Many voices. You are not. You slid this under the table. That's what I think. Slid it under the table, under the cloak of darkness, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if there's any kind of misappropriation. I can't prove it. I'm not a lawyer, but just in my heart, that's what I feel. It's not right. Not right to Varnell. It's not right to Cohutta. The traffic was mentioned briefly. This is going to be three-way traffic. Three-way traffic, north, south, and west to I-75. Highway 201 is a very heavily trafficked road. With this inland port, we're getting truck, 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 car, car, truck, car, truck, car. It's on all day long. And I'm sure the state, maybe the county, is probably just chomping at the bit to four-lane that 201. I'm sure y'all are. But I hope that never happens. So the traffic, you're going to have, more than likely, it's going to go down south on Cleveland Highway, and it's going to go west to I-75. How many people know the back roads to Catoosa and or Chattanooga or wherever you're going? Not too many people, maybe a few, but there is some back roads, but it takes quite a long time to make your route. And the way the traffic, the way I see it, with 1,200 houses, you're going to have 2,400 cars. Half of them going to go south, 1,200 cars going south, 1,200 going west. I hope you can enjoy your traffic light visit, because that's what it's coming down to. Have a good day.
Anyone else? All right, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Commissioner Jones. We're adjourned.